guys, so I've made some more progress on the van and I'm going to show you that, but first I'm going to kind of go over what I've been getting ready for to go on my trip, because that's the main reason I've been trying to rush some of this along and get it ready, because I'm going on a trip first weekend in November, which is actually not this coming weekend but the following weekend. I think it's like the 2nd and the 3rd is the weekend I'll be gone. So anyway, let's take a look at the van. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to kind of go over the maintenance side of it. So first we got new tires all around. Had to get some tires. The front ones were new, but they were kind of wearing weird, and they had that bald spot on the inside, so I had to have that looked at. So I replaced all 4 tires all the way around, and in the front we got new idler arms. After that, me and a buddy went through and took the old radiator out because it was cracked. It wasn't leaking, but it was cracked, and it was a possible, you know, malfunction for a long trip. So there's a new radiator in there now. While we were at it, we replaced the serpentine belt because it was cracked. So there's a new serpentine belt on there. Let's see, another big issue that I've been having recently is a power loss going up hills and passing on the interstate. And as you know, I drive the interstate to work every day. So I didn't know, I've never had this catalytic converter go bad, but my diagnosis, or like what I noticed, was there was a smell, and I described it as like a fireworks smell, which would be like a sulfur smell. Then when I looked that up, that kind of pointed to a bad cat because it's supposed to smell like rotten eggs. So had the catalytic converter replaced. That was about $220 with labor, including the cat. So there's a new catalytic converter on there, and interesting that these vans have 2 of those on there. They have what's called like a pre-cat, I guess. It's a smaller one, and they have the larger one. So yeah, it's all in one line, but I just had them take the pre-cat out, of course, because we didn't know which one was bad. Probably both of them. But now there's only one cat on there, and they just extended it with a little piece of pipe in between. So that issue's been taken care of. I've been throwing a couple other codes for like the mass airflow and the intake temperature sensor. So I replaced the intake temperature sensor, and then I cleaned the mass airflow, and I hadn't got that that code back yet for the mass airflow, but I did order a new mass airflow sensor, but it was the wrong diameter, so it did not fit, so I sent it back. So I'm not going to order a new one until I'm sure that this one's bad, because I kind of jumped the gun on that one, mainly because I'm taking the trip and everything. Let's see, what else have I done for maintenance? Of course, I got the oil changed. Was due for an oil change, and I wanted to get that before I go. Let's see, I think that's no wait, I did plugs and wires. So I did spark plugs and I did wires all the way through it, and that was kind of a pain, because on these vans you got to take both front wheels off, and then there's like an inner plastic cowling, you got to take that off, and then of course the dog house in here, so that's been taken off and replaced, and it's running good again. Like, I haven't had any problems, no power loss anymore. I don't got to worry about the tires anymore. The tires weren't super bad, but the back ones were the ones that were on it when I bought it. So now there's tires all the way around. You can kind of see there's quite a bit of a mess in here because it's been raining, and I've been in and out of here doing wiring and stuff. Which is one thing I'm kind of glad I don't have any carpet in here, because that's, you know, to clean this out, I'm just gonna, you know, put some water on it, scrub it, and then wipe it out, and let it, you know, then possibly sweep it out if there's anything left. But that'll clean up real nice, but you can just see it's just real muddy here. I'm definitely going to be looking for some seats. This has been the seat in it since I've got it. This was actually the driver's seat at one point, and the previous owner had switched the passenger over to there and the driver to here. That way, you know, you don't got to deal with this while you're driving. So I do need to find a couple seats, but what I want to do is find, like, I like the color, but I want to find some seats that got the armrests, because of course there's many different seats for these Astros that you can find. I need to find the one with the armrest for that side that matches the interior, just like, I don't know what color this is. It's like a gray, charcoal gray, I don't know. But for this one, since I have added this, and I haven't talked about this yet, except just to say that I was going to install it, I've installed a seat swivel, and that raises it about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, but it's about 1.5 inches height. So that means that this seat is about 1.5 inches taller than that seat. Not a big deal. Like, I can still sit in here, and I'm 6 foot, and I'm still, you know, a good 3-4 inches from the roof for the top of my head. So not a big deal. But it would be nice, because if you get a captain seat from the Astros that have the back seats in the 3rd row, you get a captain seat, they actually sit lower. than the front seats. So I could get a captain's seat up here with the armrests and everything. And you know, but of course I got to find something that matches. I would kind of like to get rid of this material, you know, that's kind of slick, but it was good for, you know, these cargo vans because you're working. You don't want to dirty your seats up and everything when you got grease on you or something. But this stuff is really slick when you're driving. So I mean, if I don't take hard corners, but if you happen to do something, you know, you feel like you're kind of sliding around, and them not being bucket seats, it kind of worsens it. So 2 new seats eventually, not today or before my trip, but that's my plan because this one's kind of roached out. Still works good, but you know, needs replaced. So let's move on to the seat swivel. That I installed, it was kind of a pain, but I used the same holes in the bottom, of course, and I just had to drill holes in the plate because there's an upper and a lower, and then it kind of spins on a middle piece. So yeah, and then there's a bracket here. So this is what you pull. You can see we're swiveling now, and then it's got a bunch of different spots, like that's a lock, there's a lock, and it keeps going more locks. But anyway, it'll spin all the way around, and I'll probably do that here before I cut the video. But it'll spin all the way around. Then you can slide the seat forward, which when it's spun around would be this way, and then you can lean the seat back, and of course it won't go all the way back where you're in like sleeping position, but it'll lean back on the dash, and you've got a pretty comfortable seat, you know. That way, you know, when I get up in the morning for my rides, I can get up, and if it's chilly out, I can sit right here and put my boots on or whatever I got to do. And these are the reasons I haven't spun it around in the video yet. This just moves out of the way, but these vans only have door speakers, and as you know, you don't get a lot of bass from those. So what I did was get 2 6x9 boxes and a couple of Kenwood 6x9s and ran them, and I ran all the wire underneath this mat here because there's like a rubber mat, 2 different halves here for the van, so I was able to run it up underneath there and connect my wires to the stereo, and now I've got a little bit of bass. But when I want to swivel the seat, this completely moves out of the way, and I can actually put it in behind that seat. It'll, you know, flip up and slide into there just to get it out of the way when I'm parked somewhere. And then I can, which this is going to be very hard with one hand, but see if I can spin it halfway there, and then there is it spun all the way around. And then you just slide it forward, and then you can, it's like my phone's ringing, but I'll ignore that for now. And all right, cut that, and now you can see it's in, you know, a mode where I can actually use it. So now you can sit in there and lean back and put your boots on, whatever you got to do. And it's pretty sweet. And then of course you can angle it whatever way you want, which is still hard to do with one hand. But say I wanted to angle it in towards the stuff a little bit more, you can see I could still shut the door and everything. Yeah, so that's a big feature for me, and it really opens it up because you can see I took this wall out because like there's the metal wall there, and that one's going to be left, but there was the other wall here because there was a door and then the wall for like your work vans. So I took that wall out, and it's currently against the garage wall over there because I'm not going to be using it. So yeah, some of the other things I had to do, like there's like some insulation below here, and it was real thick, so to get the seat to set as low as it could without any other modification, I took the insulation out. You can see I put in some reflective insulation down there. That way it's still got something. It's not completely without insulation, but that's just real thin stuff, so that worked out pretty well for that. So yeah, we got swivel seat, new speakers. That way I've got a little bit of bass as I'm driving, because some of the music you listen to, you know, the front door speakers just don't do it justice, and you got to turn it up almost to max volume to hear some of the, especially older classic rock, because they weren't recorded in like super high fidelity or anything. So yeah. All right, moving on. Now I've got switches here, you can see. So I've got this one opens up to 2 USB plugs and a 12-volt socket there. And then I've got a 12-volt gauge here. This is just a lot, like this I already had extra. I actually had to get the switches. I couldn't find my other switches I had, but I ordered some just like these, a bunch of them, and I can't find them. So anyway, you can see here that this switch here on the left will turn on 12-volt socket, then you can see what's in the batteries, and then it'll turn on my USBs at the same time. And then this switch here will turn on the 12-volt socket over here for your accessory plugs. So let me move some of this and I'll hop up in the van here. Alright, so now looking down here, we have a fuse panel there, and into that fuse panel I have wired the Fantastic fan. So it's into there with a fuse, but it's also fused up here. But I think this fuse just protects the fan itself. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and run it to a fuse down here as well. That way it's fused right off the panel, and then the fuse up here protects the electronics up here is what I've read. I'm not an expert, but that's what I've read. And then I've got the accessory plugs, both of them fused different. So the USB has its own fuse into the fuse box, and the 12-volt plug has its own fuse into the fuse box. So anyway, I've kind of left the wiring a little bit long up here. You can see I've kind of tied it up, but I need to really figure something out with that. I really didn't measure it, but I thought I was leaving just enough where I could run it up into that corner, but apparently I left quite a bit. So I'm gonna, when I get back from my trip, I'll worry about that, and then I'll kind of tidy up that wiring. For now, it's just kind of tucked up and zip tied out of the way. So I'll go ahead and do that later on. Let's see. Yeah, as far as the Fantastic fan, you can see here that it is installed. It won't come on with the vent down, which I found out. I thought I wired something wrong, and I was like, oh crap, it's not working. But apparently you've got to have this up for the fan to actually come on. So now you can see I've got speed 1 there, speed 2, and speed 3. And that thing will really suck some air in here. I can already feel it. It's like, and it's actually just pushing it out right now, which would be like if I rolled my front windows down when I'm sitting somewhere and it's hot, it'll suck the air in and then out. That way it'll keep some air moving while I'm parked. But you can actually get a switch, and this one doesn't have it installed, but it just, 12-volt DC motors, you can reverse the polarity of them and run the fan backwards. So I could actually have it blowing air in right here, which is something I definitely want to do. So that's definitely next on the list, to get another switch up there. I guess they sell them for like $50, but I don't see any point in paying for that because you can just put in your own switch. I remember when my daughter was real small, she had a little 12-volt power wheel, and I was able to put a switch on that, and basically reverse the motor so she could back it up. She could flip the switch and hit the gas pedal and it would go backwards. And she really loved that, because when she would just ram it into a corner, playing around, she was able to back it up without getting off of it. So, that's pretty cool that you're able to do that. So yeah, 12-volt panels all down there and put in. I still haven't put my mesh up across here. I really want to find some different material, because this is just a motorcycle net I got from Harbor Freight. You can see how big these squares are. So I want to find something else that's actually a lot smaller squares, just to be able to keep it anything else from falling, like something like that, but bigger, like those smaller ones, and I can stretch it across and it won't be a problem. That one down there I'm probably going to leave open because it has a lip, and that's just my battery charger down there. That way I can see my tender. You can see it's just sitting there tending the batteries right now. And then that one will be left open because that one's just my water jug. And I normally don't fill that full, so I don't got to worry about it moving around. But I just have it strapped in there, and it's actually kind of sitting up high because it's on that edge over there. But I'm eventually going to mount some straps to the actual metal wall back there, to the bracing of the wall. That way, you can actually fill that full and strap it in. That way, if you hit the brake, it's just not going to go crashing forward with a full thing of water. So that's definitely on the list of things to achieve. But anyway, last time I was talking about I put this wall in and mounted the TV and everything. Definitely going to be doing that to this wall. I'm going to put up the insulation on this wall. Not like full winter insulation, but just that Reflectix. That way, if there's the sun beating down on the van in the summer, it'll kind of reflect a lot of that heat out and keep it from coming in the van. It's not going to reflect it all, of course, but yeah, it'll work out pretty well. Oh, I think that is about it for an update. I've checked everything off of my list so far, except I've got to put the tire on the motorcycle and change the oil on the motorcycle, and then I'm done. And then pack everything up, because I have it packed, but I still got a couple more days off of work before the trip next week, and I'm gonna do that. But yeah, that seat, man, that is just so cool. It's just so cool, and I really haven't even sat in it yet, honestly. I've really, because I just installed it last night. So look at that. I could just sit here in my seat and look at all my open space. And I think I'm not gonna put any material up on the roof, but I think I'm gonna line it with Reflectix. I think that would work out pretty well. Just line the entire roof with Reflectix, and that way that helps that. And one more thing I completely forgot about, because I didn't even put it on my list. I need to get a curtain for across here for when I sleep, and that way I can shut this off, and that way when I'm heating the van at night, you know, and when it's cold, I'll be able to shut this curtain, and hopefully it'll keep a lot of the heat in the back there. But yeah, this seat sitting backwards is pretty awesome. Definitely opens it up a little bit. So anyway, I think that's about it. I'm sure I'll remember something else once I cut the video, but you know, that's usually how it goes with YouTube. So, oh, I was gonna say the lights up there, the 12-volt lights, I don't have them fused to the panel, mainly because I want to run them into my charge controller. That way, at night, I can come in here, like I can have both them switches on, or one switch, and then all I gotta do is reach inside the van and press that one button on the control panel, and it'll turn them lights on. So that's kind of something I didn't wire in that I wanted to do, but I may eventually run another switch down here, and then wire them to the fuse panel and then to the switch, and that way I can just flip a switch down there and not worry about my charge controller button up there. So I may do that eventually, definitely not before the trip. But anyway, so it's rained quite a bit, and my fantastic fan has not leaked at all, but I sealed it from the outside, and then you can see I did it in here too, because of course there was some caulk coming through, because I really did it up pretty good up there, and there was some caulk coming through and everything, so I went ahead and sealed it. But you know, it's been raining and there's not been any water in here. That's just my mud tracks. And then of course this little thing I cut in the roof has not been leaking at all. But we can kind of hop up here and take a look at it. So this side was the side I was worried about, so I really did it thick, because I had to go up on these ridges. As you can see, it's flat back there, and that would have been a great spot to put this, but I couldn't because there's like bracing back there, and I could not do that. So I had to come up here and go over these ridges, which I've seen in a lot of videos. That's just what you have to do. So it's up on these ridges, so I had to really get it thick, like right in the corners there around the ridges. But nothing's leaking. It looks great, works great, and I'm pretty happy with it. And then here's the other 12-volt plug. You can kind of see I went around everything. I even went over all the screw heads, because there's caulk underneath the screw heads, but I went over them as well. That way it's all waterproof over the screws and everything. So yeah, that swivel seat just really was a game changer for the camping van, that's for sure. Definitely works well. So I really want to hit a pick and pull yard or a scrap yard and see about some seats, maybe pick up some other little things. I want to paint this front grille black, then the bumper black and everything, and then maybe paint the bow tie white. That way it kind of stands out a little bit from the black, and I think that will be pretty awesome. And then of course the rack. I gotta get the rack built. I'm not gonna get it built before this trip, unfortunately. But since this campground has a power plug-in, I'll just use the power plug-in there, and I'll worry about that later, because I'm going to build an actual solid rack up there out of like maybe one inch tubing or something, and build it real solid, and then I'll mount that piece that I built onto that. That way it can kind of flip up and everything, and then I can just take this piece off and then have an actual solid rack up there that stays up there. But that's definitely not going to happen before the trip, because I haven't found a place to get metal at yet. I haven't really drove around to them yet, but you know, there's only a couple around and I don't know what they have. And then I need to find somebody to weld it, because my little welder is not going to do it. It's up there. It's just a little hobby welder. You know, I think it's good for welding like 1/8 inch metal, which is not going to be what I want. I need something that's does a little bit better, because even it says 1/8 inch, but even it struggles with that at times. You know, it runs real hot. It's only got like a high and a low setting, which is not great. But yeah, anyways guys, hopefully you enjoyed this little bit of update. I know it kind of carried on a little bit. I think we're up to close to 20 minutes or plus now. But anyway, camper van's getting ready. I think I'll make one more update video of once the van's all packed up and ready and the bike's loaded on the back, because I got to get my bike carrier up there down and mount it on. And then I also bought for this trip, I bought one of these locks, because I have one on my truck for its hitch, but I got one for the van, just one of these from Harbor Freight. I think it was like 10 bucks or something, maybe 15. That way it'll lock my bike carrier on. I don't got to worry about it when I leave the campground. Somebody pulling it off there that might need a bike carrier. So anyway guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.